I'm sure we've all stood somewhere on a start line at an event somewhere and heard someone say, "Oh, I ran into you. I couldn't see my boat." Now, 90% of the time, I'd like to think that that's not an excuse, and it's poor positioning if you can't if you can't see your boat on a start line. A pretty general rule is move somewhere so that you can. Because if you can't see your boat line, how do you expect to get off the start line well and race your boat? So even if it's you're standing at a bit too far forward of the line to get a good gauge on the line, well, you just sheet on and go with the pack, and you're more chance of getting a good start if you can see what you're actually doing rather than being tangled underneath someone. So a good rule of thumb, if you can, is never ever try and stand directly in line with the start line, because you're going to have a line of boats and you're never going to see yourself. I always like to stand anywhere from maybe 5 foot forward, or you want to open that angle up a little bit so you can see your boat, and you'll get, if you do that, you'll get a depth perception of where your boat is relative to other boats with you. Now, unfortunately, life isn't always consistent with the most perfect start line on the most perfect venue and everything's glorious. So there are times where you've got to stand to leeward of the start line or a long, long way up to windward of the start line. A general rule is if everybody's sheeting on, go with the pack. If the guy next to you is over the line and the one under you is over the line, well, you're going to be over the line with them, and it will probably end up just being a general recall. But that's always stand somewhere where you can see your boat. Now, I guess moving up the beat, a lot of people, this is taking into account if we're walking the course on in a race, a lot of people walk ahead of their boat upwind, and they all, the thumbs start gripping the transmitter really tense and everything's all exciting. You're racing and got a knife blade between your teeth and all of that kind of stuff. What you want to do is just relax your hands a little bit. After you've stood ahead of your boat off the start, just make sure you can still see your boat. But as the fleet opens up a little bit, you want to be standing no further to windward of your boat than you can. So your boat wants to either be straight out off the course, perpendicular to where you're standing, or even very slightly ahead of you. Because if you do that, then all of a sudden, if your boat's slightly upwind of you, ever so slightly, then as you're looking at your boat, you've also opened up your vision to the course area, and you can see what breeze is coming down to you. If you can imagine you're standing further upwind of your boat and you're looking back downwind to it, then it's a big action to turn and look over your shoulder the whole time, and you'll find you're missing half of the shifts that are happening, and whether you should be tacking on something or anticipating that you'll be tacking on something, then you'll get yourself boxed in and it doesn't work for you. So stand a little bit further behind your boat and just watch what's happening up the course with the wind. Okay, nice breeze pressures happening over on the left. Okay, I'll make sure I position myself for that, vice versa. Now we get up round, that's the way I'll sail it up to the weather mark. What I'll try and do, especially if there's traffic at the weather mark, you want to get to a certain place where you can see your boat and then plant your feet. And that's it. You'll race your boat round the weather mark. There might be a spreader mark that you're then off sailing to. You don't want to be moving your feet while you're sailing to that spreader mark. It's usually a very short fetch or a very short reach across to it. That rounding's one of the most important roundings, especially early in the race, is what you'll find, because you want to be nailing that nice, especially if you're in a lot of traffic and boats are weaving and moving all over the place because people are walking backwards and forwards behind each other and they haven't got a good sight on their boat. You want to be dead certain of getting to that weather mark, across to the spreader mark. You want to know in your head whether you're going to be hooking around it and coming back for a good jibe for clear air on the inside, if that's where the wind is, or whether you're continuing on. But that needs to be a really smooth rounding, and you'll find more often than not, if you're nailing that rounding, coordinating your sheet ease to your rudder turn rate, you will put boat lengths on people out of that marker or into a nice jibe, clear air, and you'll break free, because usually there's mayhem happening across that top reach. From there, let your boat come to you a little bit, and then you want to be, when you can, just standing just very slightly ahead of your boat. So it's the opposite for upwind. Or sorry, yeah, you're still standing slightly, well, you're standing slightly ahead of your boat on the run again, so you can see what wind is coming down to your boat, and whether you want to jibe and go and hook into another shift, or basically where you want to position yourself. If you're standing behind your boat, you're not seeing what wind's coming over your shoulder, taking you down to the run. Same when you get back down to the bottom gate, plant your feet, round your mark, then let your boat sail back up to you, and then follow it back up the beat again.